So, hi, I'm Julianna. I'll be doing my presentation. I've titled The Spark That Stays, Guiding the Student Experience. Okay, raise your hand if you've heard first is more than robots before. Yeah, that's what I figured. So, there's a reason we're all here today at this conference. There's something that really resonates with students, something that makes this program so successful, beyond engineering and the competitions and all those long hours. I'd like you all to take a moment to think of a time when a student lit up during a meeting, when you could see them realize that they're a part of something bigger, when they suddenly feel capable and confident and proud of their hard work. That is what I like to call the spark. And I think it's the core of why we all love this program. This morning, I'll be talking about why it's our job as mentors to make sure that spark happens, not just for the ones who jump in head first, but also for the ones who take a little bit longer. The spark doesn't happen all at once. It builds through experience, trust, and encouragement. And our job as mentors is to help every kid who walks through our doors, because once you light that spark, it stays. Hi, I'm Julianna Zeigler, or as all my friends call me, Juju. We're all friends here, so feel free to call me that. I'm a technical mentor for 6328, serving as the head of student experience, engagement, and development. Over the last 2 seasons, I've worked to create systems that ensure every student on our team has the opportunity to thrive there. As a proud alum of FRC 2168, I've discovered a passion for engineering there, but more importantly, I learned the value of confidence leadership and prioritizing inclusion and engagement. I attended Worcester Polytechnic Institute, getting my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I found a home here at WPI. I'm so happy to be back. It's where my core values really soared. I took up countless club executive board positions and dedicated myself to everything I could in my 4 years here. During my freshman year, I was lucky enough to be recruited by 6328 as a college mentor, but unfortunately, I went to college during COVID, so I took a little bit of a hiatus from first to focus on my degree and theater. I graduated in 2023, and I've worked as a design engineer ever since. I was welcomed back to Mechanical Advantage as a technical mentor in fall of 2023, and ever since, I've been developing, organizing, and running programs that can hopefully solve our most important piece of our team puzzle, which was inspiring the younger students and also fostering accountability. I truly believe this program cultivates confidence, defined leadership skills, and creates a lasting sense of belonging, just as it's done for me. Let's start by talking about my patent-pending progress ladder for the growth journey. I like to think of this as the steps of a journey every kid takes when they're part of your team. It's vital that mentors give this opportunities to each person, each project, and each robot work that fits the stage that each kid is at. So these 4 are: number 1, observing; 2, learning; 3, doing; and 4, most importantly, leading. So most students start here at the observing phase. You know these kids, they're brand new, they're not super comfortable about asking questions, they stand around, they have their hands in their pockets, their hoods up. They're pretty shy, robotics is new and scary, they don't really think that they can do it. I think observers need the most mentor intervention to help ignite that spark. Because if they stay in this observing phase for too long, they can really stagnate and lose interest. So here are my 4 tips and tricks for dealing with observers. The most important tip is what I call duckling mode. So you know how mama ducks, they have their ducklings, they follow her around, right? When I was a rookie on my team, that's literally all I did my first year. I followed my mentors around until I learned something, and I eventually did. So I've always found that telling your kids directly that they should follow you around and that they're welcome to do that, it makes them comfortable doing that. And they learn so much. So my next tip is hands-on target. So when a kid is brand new, they're not going to have strong initiative, especially they'll be standoffish, hands in the pockets, they're all rolling their eyes, hiding in the corner. So if you have them next to you, what I like to do is I pick up a wrench and I put it in their hand, because they're not going to have that initiative to pick it up themselves. So sometimes you just have to skip that step for them and just let them try it out. My next tip is hardware galore. Does every team have that to be sorted bucket of hardware, right? You don't want to put it all away, right? Okay. So we have one of those. It's even labeled to be sorted. I've actually become pretty notorious for this. I force all of the students to sort the to be sorted bucket. Anytime they're like, I don't have anything to do. So fun fact, it actually is the best way to get them familiar with all the different types of hardware and where everything goes in the shop, because it can be really intimidating. All that stuff they've never seen before. What is that? What is that? And then they learn because you have to tell them where it goes and what it is and how to differentiate between the different pieces. So make them sort the things, even if they groan and moan about it. Okay, my next tip is make sense. So when you explain something new, I always tend to end my sentences with, does that make sense? Or, you got that? Or I make them explain it back to me because that really checks their understanding. Kids are often won't ask questions if they have them, right? I feel like we've all been in that spot where someone talks about something really complicated and you're like, oh, I don't even know what my question is. Like, where do I even begin? Whereas if you give someone the opportunity to ask a question, they're more often likely to do so. Okay, this is the next phase. So number 2 is learners. So when a kid, you'll see it. You'll see them transition from observers to learners. It's like suddenly they asking questions. They're sparked, right? In my wording. This is the time to use that spark and help them learn more and more. So these students are really good listeners. They follow your advice, actually. For teenagers, that's pretty good. And they show up to the shop ready to jump in. So I always start with incremental tasks. So when you work on a big project with learners, it's really important to try to break those things down into smaller steps, because it's easy to trust a kid with a small step. But sometimes if you give them too much to do at once, there's going to leave room for mistakes, or they'll forget a step and then you have to go back and redo everything. And that can discourage them, you know? So if you break it down into the tiny steps, like go tap that, or, oh, go build this tiny piece of the assembly, like that they can handle that. And you know that they can, you have to let them. My second tip is shadowing. So we use this because we really believe in peer-to-peer learning opportunities. So those older kids who already are doers or leaders, whatever I'll talk about later, use those kids to have the younger kids shadow them. So what that means is they just follow along in their footsteps like a shadow, right? It's great for the older kid. It's great for the younger kid. Who doesn't like learning alongside a friend? So speaking of collaboration, I've noticed that kids in this stage are much more confident if they're completing a task with a buddy or 2. If it's too big of a group, no one will do anything. But if you have 2 or 3 or 4 kids, they will actually have more fun, more importantly, and it's a good opportunity for them to learn those collaboration skills super young. I also like to ask my learners, what's next? So at this stage, they're starting to get interest in specific things like coding, CADing, whatever you have. It's important to check in with them and say, okay, what do you feel like you're loving right now? And what do you want to learn next? They'll like say, oh, I love that that kid is doing the lathe. Can I learn how to do that? If you ask them what they want to do. Okay, phase 3 are doers. So these kids, right? These are the kids you can trust with like any task. They don't really need your help as much. They have at least one area of expertise. This is really like when people think of FIRST, they think about the skills that kids learn, like the STEM skills. They become individual contributors so that they have success in their careers and college. So this is part 1 of the goal of every FIRST kid, right? Is to get them to be good at doing something, whatever they're passionate about. So my tips for doers, number 1 is to verbalize your support. Fun fact, teenagers actually do like to be told that they're doing a good job, even if they roll their eyes at you and say, stop telling me, stop, I don't like compliments. It's really important to still support them at this phase, even though they're pretty independent. They appreciate the encouragement, and it's also important to continue to offer help. Even though these kids are good at what they're doing, that actually means they're going to ask for help less if they need it, because they feel like they know what they're doing. They don't want to ask anymore. They feel bad if they suddenly forget how to do something. So really offer help if you can tell they might need a little bit of it. Second is the review process. So one thing that's important to us is that we set up really good feedback systems. So on design, that looks like design reviews. So things like that really help your students get used to receiving critique on their work, but learning not to take it personally. I'm sure you've all told a kid, hey, that's not how you're supposed to do it, and they cry, you know? We don't want to set those kids up for failure in that way. So giving them time to review in a formal setting takes all the emotion out of it, and they get used to receiving tips and tricks and working together with a manager, right? That's a really important skill to have later on as well. I'm hashing it back to collaboration. I know, I'm sorry. But it's important for doers because just because they can do it alone doesn't mean that they should. These students would often rather go sit in a corner and work alone, but it's your job as their mentors to remind them they should probably work with the younger students on almost all their projects. Obviously, they can have some time to themselves, but keeping it collaborative at this stage is important to make sure that they don't become standoffish and like know-it-alls, to be honest. Okay, so my last tip for doers is organization. So making sure that you as mentors and with some of your student leaders set timelines, expectations. We write down like as much as possible so that kids know what they're expected to do and what the timeline looks like, and they're prepared to feel successful and not get as stressed out. It's really important also to check in with them frequently about timelines and about expectations because it helps them stay connected and on track. Cool. Okay, phase 4 is leading. So you may notice no tips and tricks. That's because this is the final stage of a student's journey, and it's probably the most complicated thing you'll ever have to teach. So I'll be talking about this more later in my presentation, but I just wanted to mention here that learning these soft skills of leadership as teens is really what FIRST is all about. It's also worth noting that some students really struggle to progress to this leadership phase. They'll want to stick in the doer phase. They really have fun doing everything, right? Like they don't want to be in charge of managing or like teaching the other kids. Like they just want to do it, right? And that's okay. Like everyone's different, and you can encourage leadership as much as you want, but try not to like force it, I guess. But these students who see the value in leadership roles and that they're given the opportunity to fully take ownership of their learning and contribute to the team in more nuanced ways, like really get a lot out of it. I was a mechanical lead and a co-captain back when I was in high school, and like that was the first time I'd been in charge of like anything. And I feel like I've taken that with me for the last several years since then. So yeah. Okay. Done talking about the progress ladder. Let's talk about subteams. Who here has subteams on your team? Great. I think they're very, very, very important for 3 reasons. Number 1 is ownership. So if a student knows that they're showing up and to do something where they know that they belong there, they know how to contribute, they can really take pride in their role in the team and feel essential to what we're all coming here to do together. It also establishes some momentum, right? Like skills build over time. So if a kid stays in a subteam for many years in a row, it allows them to go deeper into that topic, learn faster, and make meaningful progress that they can see and they can feel. Number 3 is confidence. So I talk a lot about confidence because I really feel like teenagers, like that's the most important skill that teenagers can learn, right? Everyone was a teenager. It's really hard. You're not confident yet, you know, and being able to give them something that they improve on, they actually begin to like believe in themselves a little bit and on their capability. They become self-assured, and confidence opens up the door to leadership. So yeah, here are some of our subteams. I kind of clumped a few of them together, but just to give people who don't currently use the subsystem or subteam structure, kind of some examples. So mechanical, they do like CAD, assembly, machining, software, they learn code, they program, yada, yada. I'm a mechanical engineer. I don't actually know what they do. Electrical, wiring. I totally know what wires do. And then we also have a lot of specializations on the business side of FRC teams. So we have a media team, an awards team, an outreach team, fundraising team. So all of those do exactly what's on the tin. If you want to learn more about that, feel free to talk to me after. We also really focus on strategy and scouting on our team. So we have kids who are on the strategy subteam and kids who are on the scouting app subteam. So they focus on that during the season as well. So yeah, feel free to talk to me about subteams after. So one thing that we really emphasize on our team are off-season trainings. We're actually just about to get started on those now that it's August. So all the subteams, so kids are assigned to 2 to 3 subteams based on their interests and their energy, and age. So every subteam has a training once a week for starting in like mid to late August and all the way up till December-ish. So they meet once a week. Most of the time it's a full group, but some of our subteams do have individual trainings like for machining and stuff like that. You start with like the basic skills and like have the newer kids learning all the basics. You teach them how everything works. And then it kind of snowballs into skill-based projects, right? So once they know how to CAD, they can CAD a whole thing. Very exciting. We also really emphasize lessons on the why. Little kids ask why a lot more than grown-ups do, because once you realize it's annoying to ask why all the time, you kind of stop doing it. But I genuinely think that teenagers just need to know why for a lot of things. So they're not going to listen to you if you don't explain why, you know? And then the older kids, like the second, third years, they do larger scope projects with all of those hows and all of those whys. So yeah. Okay. I'm very excited about this. So this is my new member program. This has been like my main focus on the team. So I think the best advice I can give about new member programs, like your first year programs, is to organize and use systems that work best for your team. So I'm going to talk about what I've done. So starting in the summer, we have an application process on our team since we're community-based. But that ends with the second phase of our application, which is our introduction fair, or as we call it, Mechanical Advantage 101. Very cute. Where our current students, they set up in little stations and they present what each of the sub-teams do, and the kids rotate around and we do a little interview, yada, yada. So that's like how we make the final cuts for applications, but that really gives them a good basis for what the team is all about. Then we have our new student orientation meeting that I cover all the basics, and I also have what I like to call buddy system. So that is really working, that's assigning a first year to a senior or junior. So kind of like to be their buddy, okay? So it's kind of like a Big Little role, to be honest. I was inspired by that from college. Basically, so they don't have to come to me about everything. They can go to their buddy, which is great. It's also someone they can look up to, hopefully, and have a buddy on the team. We also do sub-team assignments. I just did them. So that's based on their interests and also their skill sets. A lot of them come from FLL, and so they'll either know how to code or like they've inspired to learn how to CAD. So the kids who have skill sets already, like those are a no-brainer. But for the kids who are more coming in just like with general interests, I talk to each of them individually about like what they think was the coolest thing they saw at Mechanical Advantage 101, right? And kind of sort them that way. Moving past that, I also, in addition to the sub-team trainings that they'll start to go to, I have what I like to call crash course meetings, where I'll have like 6 or so over the course of the next several months, just covering like drills, safety, competitions, and even like communication skills, and just like so that they have a good baseline of everything on the team, not just their sub-team, right? So that's less about hard engineering skills and more about team skills. So those are super fun. It also bonds them together, kind of like a litter of kittens, like they learn to like each other, which is very important for building a successful, sustainable team. We also attend several off-season competitions that are really local to us. And we make sure that like all the first years are going to those, because what a fun taste of what's to come, you know? So yeah, that's the fall. And then moving into like January and the winter and the spring. So these kids are ready for build season, right? They're ramped up. They've been going to trainings. They're very excited. So we have kickoff. Who loves kickoff? I know I love kickoff. Yes. We have a tradition we like to call the bucket hat ceremony. If you know our team at all, you know our bucket hats. So at kickoff, they become fully fledged members of our team and they get their bucket hats. So I really encourage traditions like that to really establish team values and team cohesiveness and joy. So every season we do collaborative prototyping. So any kid on the team who wants to prototype, we let them. Obviously, some are going to have to build like the field or like code stuff. Sorry, Jonah. But every other kid is going to be in a group, right? So I assign these groups based off skill level. Like I try to mix them together as much as possible to get them integrated with the full team, right? So that's older kids, that's younger kids, that's everyone, right? And they love that. We actually just held our first annual prototyping workshop, which was a 4-day workshop where the kids just prototyped all week, and it was a competition to see who could frisbee the most can jams, which was super fun and got them really excited for the real prototyping we'll do in the winter. Yes. Okay. Once we get to like week 3 or 4 of build season, prototyping is dwindling down. The kids are running out of fun stuff to do. So that's when we start Kitbot. Give Kitbot a hand. No, I'm kidding. I love Kitbot. I think it's a great way to teach those first years how to build a robot in a really cohesive way. We will also be bringing our Kitbot, our neon pink Kitbot, you can see her right there, to our off-season competitions as a second robot. So the kids will get to see all their hard work go to good use. So I have those meetings certain days a week. So last year I did Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. I don't know. So they know if they come on Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, they can work on Kitbot and they can have fun with me. Who wouldn't want that? I also really emphasize checking in with all the kids throughout the winter, even casually, or as I like to call them, doing surveys. I call them, "Are you having fun?" surveys. I literally just ask them to rank on a scale of 5, "Are you having fun?" Because the ones who put anything less than a 5, I'm like, oh, okay, what's wrong? Like, please tell me. And usually I can solve problems and filter them that way. So competitions, they get to do the typical stuff. We do scouting, cheering. All our students have to scout. All of our students have to cheer. But then we also try to let them shadow, bring them back to shadowing. Older kids with competition roles like drive team, pit roles. Yeah, because a lot of times, like, the first years aren't fully like ready to give those big roles. Ever so often we'll get a kid that, you know, they sparked really early and they're ready. Like we had a strategy girl last year. She just like dove right in. But for the most part, they're in the stands, they're having fun, they're scouting, they're cheering, yada, yada. Okay, here's the fun part, leadership. So it's really important to establish different types of roles for students to grow into throughout their years on the team. These are the 5 leadership opportunities we have on our team, but it's important to figure out what works for your team and accommodate all your different levels of leaders, right? So number 1 is project ownership. So this is more of a casual title, but for like subsystems and stuff of that nature during the season, or like vision, like things that can kind of branch off as a piece of the main robot project. It's really great to give kids ownership of that and establish that they're like in charge of the group working on that. So that's less of like this is your title and more of a, hey, you're in charge of this. It's a good way, it's a good test to see how ready they are for handling leadership and ownership and all those fun skills. But we try to give like upperclassmen the chance to own a project during the season. The next one I've already briefly mentioned, competition roles. So we have official assigned roles on our team for competitions. So that we have pit roles, like going from like, we have pit lead to like the people who come after the match and like check the robot. We also have our drive team, obviously. We also have our strategy team. They're very core to how we operate at competitions. We have our scouting like leaders. Like our scouting lead works with a few of the other scouting application students, and they kind of lead the pod of scouts in the stands, right? So when you're at a competition on our team, you know your job and you know what you're working on, which leads to a lot of accountability and fun, most importantly. This is a new one. The next one is subject matter experts. Who's heard that term? Engineers, let's go. So if people are engineers or just in the industry, I assume you know there are two paths you can take when you're an engineer. You get engineer 1, E2, E3, senior, whatever. But then you have to choose principal or manager, right? There's two types of engineers, right? And we realized we have both of those personality types, even though they're just teenagers. So we created SMEs this year to have something for our shyer individual contributors to aspire to beyond being these other sub-team lead captain roles I'll talk about in a second. So these subject matter experts, they get their own special title. It's usually a senior or junior who displays all of the hard work and all of the things we value on our team, but isn't quite the type of kid who wants to lead a whole group, right? It's really important that you appreciate those students as well. It's not, you can't force everyone to be a big, brave, loud leader, you know? So we created SMEs this year. Next one is sub-team leads. So this one's kind of self-explanatory. Each of our sub-teams has a lead student. Their job is to manage the work of that sub-team during the season. They help plan the trainings. They also like make sure all the younger kids are learning, which is the tricky thing to convince teenagers to do. But all of our sub-team leads, we have a leadership retreat and we kind of go over what our expectations are for them. We also meet with them. We have a special sub-team leads and SMEs and mentor meeting every week, and we go over all the stuff that's happening at a higher level so that they feel involved in the planning process and all the stuff that goes into running a successful team. Okay, above that are our team captains. So we have 2 team captains. Some teams have 1, some teams have more. Some teams do team captain, vice captain. I did co-captains. Like you can do it however you want, but for us, we chose to have 2 team captains. They're equal. They work together. They lead our team meetings. They organize team logistics. They do all the big stuff, all the behind the scenes stuff, and they're like the faces of our team. I have some pictures of some of our old team captains. They're so cute. But what's important for these captains is that you're checking in with them even more than you think you need to, because it's really stressful to be put in a leadership position this early. And they'll get in their head about it, right? They're trying to like manage these problems, interpersonal problems they often will focus on. And you're like, whoa, let's take a step back. Let's take a breather. Yeah. So that's what we do on our team. But every team is different. Every team has different types of students. What's really important is that you establish everyone's expectations for their roles. So we have job descriptions for each of these titles on our team. Okay, so this is my tips for cultivating leaders, because it's really important that you foster all of the good stuff, you know? So failure is growth, right? Normalize that it's okay to have a setback. It's okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn, right? Failure is not failing, it's growing. So really telling kids that, like point blank, like, you're growing, you're not failing, is actually really important because they get in their head about it. Lead by example. So, you know, all the behaviors you wish your kids had. Fun fact, if you're not doing that the way that you want them to do it, they're not going to do it. They're going to model exactly what you're doing. So if you have a bad attitude, they're going to have a bad attitude. If you are super enthusiastic, they'll be as enthusiastic as a teenager can be. So I really think that that's all in the mentors, right? Is setting the example that you wish your students would exhibit. Next is facilitating reflection. So we have reflection meetings after every competition. We have them in the middle of build season. We just give opportunities for kids to give feedback because they're almost young adults, like they have opinions. It's scary, but they do. And if you're not listening to that and trying to build solutions based on their problems, like they're going to feel stuck and they're going to give up. And I've seen it happen, and it's really discouraging when kids feel like they're not being listened to when they're trying to reflect, So it's really important to have meetings about it. Next thing is empowering ownership. So have you ever, this is a funny one, have you ever seen a group project and there's like 6 people on the group project and then everyone's like, oh, the other guy will do it? Yeah, so teenagers do that too. And if you don't say, hey, take ownership of this, or you lead this today, like giving them, really pointing out that they could take charge of something if they wanted to is really great. So yeah, celebrate initiative. Sorry, it's really small on the screen. So initiative, everyone knows what initiative is. It's filling the gaps, right? It's taking the lead. It's seeing a student in the corner and bringing them over to the group, right? It's all about that initial push, that initial spark, if you will. So if you see a kid doing the exact behavior that you wish all your kids were doing all the time, say, wow, good job. Even just pointing out the behaviors you like to do, so rewarding good behavior is really important. I'm really enthusiastic. That's like one of my core values. So if I see a kid doing anything I like, I literally will like yell. I'll be like, oh my gosh, you're doing so good. Like, you don't have to do that. I'm sorry. But even just a compliment here and there when you see something you like goes a long way. I'm circling back to peer learning. Leadership all starts with wanting to help others and help others learn. So if you encourage peer learning, we saw it this week at our prototyping workshop. Our second years, we're peer teaching the first years, like already. And I was like, wow, it's literally working. Oh my God. And I like cried. No, I'm kidding. But just encouraging that even at the earliest stages of when a kid understands something, having them teach it to someone else, even if it's as simple as tapping a hole or plugging in a wire, like teaching them the little skills, having a student explain it instead of you explain it goes a long way. Okay, sorry, that was wordy. Okay, hi mentors. Let's focus on student growth and development, shall we? It's all up to us, because if we don't focus on it, the kids don't know how. So I would like you all to take away from this presentation is fostering a growth mindset. This doesn't happen by accident. It happens through culture and also consistency. It takes a long time and sometimes many years to make this a reality. So these are my 4 pillars of a growth mindset. Number 1 is opportunity. So we really try to give students access to real work, even when they're just starting out. Even if it's just a little project that we see around the shop, just assigning projects to kids who need them. You can even just give them a piece of the project, It's really important to not save all the real work for those experienced kids, right? Just because one kid could do it better doesn't mean you shouldn't offer another kid to try. When students are trusted to take on tasks early and often, they start to believe they're capable of learning and improving. Number 2 is structure. So growth, it's really important to have a clear plan, defined roles, and communication about those goals to help students know, like, where they stand, where they're going. I have check-in meeting. We had student conferences over the summer. We'll have them again at the end of the winter or before kickoff. We talk about goal setting on our team. Goal setting is really important, and teenagers are still learning how to do it. So why not give them opportunities to practice? When you have clear expectations, students don't take corrections personally. They see it as part of the process, and they expected that the way they're behaving is not the way they were supposed to be behaving. Like they know what you hope that they're doing. Number 3 is care and support. I know this sounds a little silly, but sometimes a growth mindset is all about supporting your kids and noticing who's struggling, noticing if a kid's having a bad day, talking about not the robot for once, caring about them as individuals, as friends, not just as students in the cog of your team. It's really important to be present and encouraging and patient because that's the best way to help students grow. Okay, I've mentioned this a few times. If you haven't noticed, I think having fun is the most important part of robotics. It's why I loved it. It's why I still love it. It's simple, but it's powerful. When students enjoy what they're doing, when they're laughing, when they're joking, they feel connected to each other, they want to be there. And it's more likely that they'll push through all the hard stuff that comes along with competitions, and they'll come back at each meeting and we'll build all those silly moments on purpose. Fun fact, if you are joyful on purpose, they actually really appreciate it. So yeah, fostering growth mindset can look different on every team, but that's just a starting point. Create it however you see it. Okay, here's my care mentality. But this is just my mentality, right? I think every mentor needs to have their own mentor mentality and play to their strengths. So this might mean teaching a technical skill you love, supporting students emotionally during a rough day, organizing logistics behind the scenes, asking good questions that push students, or even just being a calm adult in a room when it's all so crazy. It's really about being yourself and focusing on your strengths and growing through your weaknesses. Teams thrive when mentors work with each other, not when everyone tries to do everything or anything, you know. It's when mentors play to their strengths, students get the best version of us, and we can put our best foot forward and set a good example. So this is my care mentality. Number 1 is curiosity. So ask your students questions, learn about them, not just, they shouldn't be the only ones asking questions. Like, you should be asking them questions. How was your day? What do you like to video game? I don't know. Just like learning who they are so that when you work with them, you actually know something about them. Number 2 is approachability. So students really react well to kindness. As much as teenagers roll their eyes at kindness, they actually love it. I'm extra friendly to the kids because that's one of my strengths, right? Why not? You know, especially the new kids. They need you to be a little extra nice because they're scared. Reliability is next. So being consistent and in your behaviors and your actions, it goes a long way in earning their trust. If I suddenly came to the shop and I was like going womp womp, I hate my life, like they would notice and they would be like, oh my gosh, I feel unsafe because Juju's not happy. What's going on? Like, it's crazy how reliability can actually really help them feel safe with you. My most important pillar to me personally is excitement. So kids mirror the attitude of those around them. So if you're positive, they're positive. If you're angry at the robot, they're angry at the robot. So really bringing that excitement, even if you've had a long day. But yeah, just have a good time. It's fun. So this is my interactive portion. What does being a mentor mean to you in 5 words or less? Does anyone want to raise their hand and share and be brave? I'll tell you, you did a good job. I'll encourage you. No? Yes, Trev.
Showing up and supporting students.
Yay. Good job.
Giving back.
Great. Giving back. We got 2 giving backs. Let's go. Yes. Guys, you're doing so good.
Build robots, have fun.
Yes, build robots, have fun. I agree. Pay it forward. Love it.
Fostering a group excitement.
Fostering group excitement. I love excitement. I'm so excited. Okay.
Leading by example.
Lead by example. Love it.
Developing problem solving skills.
Yes. Engineering is all problem solving. I agree.
Teaching real life experiences.
Yes. I love teaching. Okay. Yes. I love that one. Oh, I pointed at two at once. Okay, you first. Never stop learning. I agree.
Learning together.
Learning together. You guys are so good at this. Anything else? Okay, my turn. Developing the sparks that stays. Are you surprised? I know. You should be surprised. I've thought about this a lot, so I prepared ahead of time. Sorry. Okay. Obviously, I love the teaching and the managing and the competitions, but to me, FRC is more about helping each other and helping each and every student feel capable, included, and excited by who they're becoming. It's about showing up with enthusiasm and understanding every time you go to the shop. The goal I hope to inspire is that building a space where kids can start their growth journey into people they never thought they could be. That's the spark that my mentors fostered in me. And I know each of you can do the same for your students. Thank you very much. I am now open for questions. Okay, so I did this at Worlds, and then I was the last one, so I got lots of question time. So I made sure to save lots of question time. So, yeah. What's up?
Everybody talks about project-based learning and inspiring new students to come in and do project-based learning. But finding those projects and defining them so that they are both approachable by new students and interesting to new students is really hard.
Yeah.
Holistic.
We do have a lot of projects we work on, especially in the summer and the fall. But every year is different. We are doing an off-season robot this year for some of our mid-level students. With my brand new kids, we'll do the crash course meetings, and I'll have a lot of little tiny projects for them to work on. We're building a robot cart right now. A few years ago, we built a new pit. What I like to do is go on online and see what other teams are doing, right? Because how are you supposed to come up with everything on your own? Use your resources and see what types of things other teams have done as projects. I also really like organizing. So I have the kids organize the shop with me a lot. That's a good project.
I'm going to put you on the spot. And you said, with your new kids, you do a lot of little projects. But you didn't name anyone.
Wow, she really called me out on that. Okay, well, number one, I teach them how to use drills. So we drill holes, and then we learn about bolts. So we put bolts in the holes we drilled. And then, I know, riveting stuff. And then we use a rivet gun. Ba-doom boom. Honestly, I'm not going to lie, I'm still developing the curriculum right this second. And I wished I had done more projects last year, but that's something I'm trying to add this year. So thanks for putting me on the spot. I'll be working on that next week after I'm done with this. Other questions? So,
From that being student to being a mentor transition, what's something that you maybe didn't get as a student that you made sure to include as a mentor?
whoa. Yeah, for sure. So here's a picture of my mentors when I was graduating high school. I think my mentors were all a bunch of dude bros, and I love them very much. But one thing I've really tried to do is be there for the girls. I know that's kind of a simple one, but it's something that I can offer as a woman in STEM. So that's something I didn't have, and I'm happy to offer. Some other things are I focus on those first years. My mentors, that wasn't their strong suit. Their strong suit was having fun and being engagement. But I really try to focus on those new kids, which is not something my mentors did. It's actually something I did as a captain. I had the new member program back in my day. So yeah, I feel like it's a lot of little things. But the transition is tough, you go from doing everything to trying to do as little as possible, which is something that I think a lot of alumni mentors really struggle with. And it's something I've really tried to encourage in my peers. Don't do anything if you can help it. Other questions? Dave.
It's not my understanding that 6328 is very large, right? There's like a lot of students.
47.
Yeah. If for the teams that are a little bit smaller, what do you think is the most important thing to focus on for teams that are a little bit smaller? So you mentioned like, there's a lot of different programs and a lot of different things. What are kind of like your priority list if you were just going to start with something, right?
Yeah.
Like what would be your main focus?
I'd say organization is the key to success on any team, and planning. I know that sounds silly, but if you have a planning meeting, if you will, and you think about everything you want to accomplish and then how to accomplish it. So if you want to have a new member program, who's going to plan it? Like have mentor meetings where you talk about your goals for the season, but not just the goals, but how to do them. So the other thing I would encourage is subteams, and having a mentor or just a resource for every subteam, and doing trainings. I know a lot of small teams, like they don't meet as much in the fall. And I think that is one of the most important things we do is actually training our kids to do the things they want to do, not just throwing them into battle for build season. Was that good, Dave?
Yeah.
Tell me I did a good job.
Yeah.
You're on my slide, so. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
For shadowing for your new students, how long do you usually wait before assigning them a shadow? On our team, we used to do it right away, but we saw that like the rookies would just drop off and not really talk to their shadows.
Oh, they're buddies?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just gave them their buddies this week, which they've only been on the team 3 weeks now, technically. I check in with the buddies also. Like I'm like, we have a channel on Slack and I'm like, hey, the older buddies, right? I'm like, check in with your buddy. Do it now. No. Because what's important about the buddy system is that they have the resource. It doesn't necessarily have to work perfectly for every kid, but for the kids that it helps them a lot. So I try to be there like as a mentor for all the new kids, but I say the buddy is more of a bonus on top of what the mentors and the student leads are doing for their sub teams. The buddies are like a bonus resource. But in terms of shadowing, which we consider something different, as soon as I see a kid that's competent at anything, I force a younger kid to watch what they're doing. So that happens as soon as I just pay attention and notice when the kids are ready. Does that answer your question? Okay, cool. Yes. Oh my gosh, senioritis is the worst. As someone who's gone through senioritis twice now, I will say it's very difficult. Our students that are seniors, I try to put myself in their shoes. That is the most important thing, I think, is remembering what it was like to be so passionate about something that you become so bitter about it. I think that telling them that you get it, like I will go up to my seniors and I'm like, look, I know that you're angry about this other thing, but I need you to focus on being a good role model right this very second. And you can complain about that to me later. Like kind of allowing them to be angry in little bits. Like I have like one-on-one chats with my seniors very often, especially when I can tell they're upset, because it's often not senioritis. It's often they feel like frustrated that they can't make a change to something they love very much. So if it is senioritis and they're just like getting bored, like, I don't know, give them something cool to do. Maybe that'll help. Seniors are hard. So it's really case by case. Like each kid is going to be different. So I always take it one kid at a time. Is that okay? Is that enough? Did I do good? Okay. Who else? Yes. We've got the microphones going around. Very exciting.
Hi. What sorry. If you had a chance to give one piece of advice to yourself when you were going through your like first year of mentorship, or something that you wish you knew in your first year of mentorship, what would you say, or what would you do differently?
The advice that I followed, I kind of mentored for the first time twice, because I mentored in 2020 and then I mentored in 2023. If I were to go back to that first year when I was a freshman in college, I would say get a car so that you can go to the shop more. And maybe realize that choir is at the same time as robotics, and that you need to pick something to, anyway. No, in all seriousness, the most important thing you can do as a first year mentor, or as a mentor onboarding a first year mentor, is giving them specific things to do. So what I did my first year back on the team was I helped them design the super pit, which was very fun and very time consuming. But it gave me accountability and ownership. Mentors are just leaders that are adults. So if you give them the structure and the leadership opportunities that you would give a student, but, flip it a little bit on its head, it really helps them. I'd say the most important thing to do is to be friends with the other mentors, and support each other. So if you're a senior mentor and there's a new mentor on your team, try to be there for them. That was really helpful for me. I had a lot of good older mentors on the team supporting me when I got back. So it's really impactful when you have people to support each other and feel included. Yay. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, sorry. Any other questions? You. Microphone. Oh.
You have so many projects you want to accomplish and
Yes.
things that you've implemented. How do you regulate them and know which ones are effective and which ones, what's your process of a feedback loop to say this one works, this one doesn't? How do you, or
Yeah.
looking at new projects, how do you know which one's going to work or not? Or just
Yeah. I mean, we on our team really focus on changing and iterating and solutions. So when we try something new, we are okay if it doesn't work. We're also okay if it works phenomenally and we're like, we have to do this again next year, which just happened with our prototyping workshop. That was a great success. So we'll be doing it again. But one way we collect feedback is through surveys, Google Forms. Number one question, did you have fun? Number two question, what did you like? Number three question, what did you not like? Number four question, would you do this again? Just getting kids to tell you their thoughts is actually really valuable. We have a post-season reflection survey twice a year, one at the end of build season and one at the end of the off season, to ask about how trainings went and to ask about how build season competition season went. I have learned so much from those kids' answers that I would have never realized was a bigger problem. You realize what kids are saying, multiple kids are saying, right? You see the bigger problems when multiple kids are mentioning it, right? And you also see the little problems that you could maybe solve as well. Does that answer your question? Yay. Who else? I have 5 more minutes. What's up? Here comes the microphone. Very exciting.
Kind of the opposite of senioritis. How do we deal with students who might be a little too involved and neglect their studies for that without killing that spark?
Yeah. Fun fact, the kids are also in school. But don't always tell your kids, don't let school get in the way of your education. No, I'm kidding. That was a joke. So it depends on the kid, to be honest. If it's a kid who is just ignoring their work, not that their work at school is hard, but just that they're not doing it, you can make a study group, give homework time. If you're at a school building, right? Tell them hey, if you get here early, or you can go do your homework. Like, please do your homework. If you don't get good grades, you can't be here. Like, I also think having good relationships with the parents is really important in that regard. Because as mentors, like, it's technically not our job for them to be good at school. It's our job to help them have fun and learn. But it's their parents' job to parent them. So if you have good relationships with the parents and your kid is coming to you and saying, I'm not doing any of my work because I love robotics so much, you can be like, parents, please help. Because again, you're their mentor, you're their buddy, you're their friend. You can have their parents parent them sometimes. Does that answer your question? Cool. I have 3 more minutes. What's up? Here comes the microphone.
For a team that's very student led, how do you go about, like, on my team, like, all the students, like, kind of organize the main goal of everything? How do you go about, like, getting them to do more student meetings or structure more, like, reflections and conferences throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about setting a good example and organizing and planning, like I've been saying before. We just make it part of our regular rhythm, right? We come home from a competition, we get Monday off, and then we come in Tuesday night for the reflection meeting. And it happens every competition. They're expecting it to happen. They know how it works, yada, yada. For conferences, we just remember to schedule them. We have our conferences in June. So we take May off and then we do the conferences in June, and that kicks off our planning. And then we also have the end of the fall conferences in December. So they just happen, and it's more, those conferences are more mentor driven. They're not really student led because sometimes, I don't know, you have to be a little bit of an authority figure to get them to actually tell you what they want to do and what they're enjoying and what they're not. So does that answer your question? Cool. 2 minutes. Yes. Microphone.
Especially as a community-based team who has almost 40 students, how? What's your recruitment process like?
Okay, I didn't talk about recruitment in this presentation because it would take too long. Our number one recruitment method is FLL. We have 16 FLL teams. Yeah. But we have only some of our mentors work on the FLL teams, and we have parents run those FLL teams, so it doesn't all fall on the backs of everyone. Again, spread out your mentors on different things. And then we also are in a pretty good area for recruiting. We go to community events. That's a big one. Like the ones where they have the tents and everyone has a booth and stuff. We go to all of those. And we also have people tell their friends. So like if a parent is in a parent group, we're like, hey, you should have your friends come. And we get over 30 applicants every year, which is too many. But we also, we just do a lot of little things. And we're also going into our 10th season. So it helps that we're older. So yeah, I think it just takes a long time to build that up. For sure. I'm done. If you want to ask me more questions, I'll be around. Hi, I'm Julianna, and thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay, bye.